Chapter 7. An Encounter in Barbados. The Parvina docked quietly at Bridgetown, Barbados at 7:20 a.m. Eddie and Lynn were already awake and they lay in bed listening to the radio. At 7:30, there was a knock on the door. "Good morning, breakfast," said the voice outside. Eddie got out of bed, almost believing he would step into cold water once more, and opened the door. A young, smiling man brought in a large tray full of cereals, orange juice, pastries, and a cafetiere of coffee. Eddie led him through the cabin to the balcony door, which he opened. The humid air struck him immediately. "Phew, it's warm. Leave the tray inside," he said to the man. "Thanks." Eddie gave him a few dollars, and the man left. Eddie looked out across the harbour view to where blue sea met white sand, to the houses dotted about the town, and to the green palm trees inland. Market stalls were already being set up near the ship, where locals could sell souvenirs and fruit to the passengers. Eddie heard the distinctive metallic sound of a steel band and saw 5 boys playing down below. He could see at least 3 other ships in the harbour. Given his nightmare, he really appreciated the fact that this was the reality. "Good morning, Mrs. Millionaire. Another day in paradise," he said. "What's for breakfast?" asked Lynn, yawning. "Get up and have a look." "You seem very awake and lively," she said. "Yes, well, after last night's trip to hell and back, this comes as a relief." "You were in a terrible state. Do you remember?" "Yes, I'm trying not to think about it," said Eddie. And he really was trying not to think about it. About the dream, about Dominic Stevens, about the real nightmare of 16 years ago. But he knew it wouldn't be easy. "Damn him," he said under his breath. Lynn and Eddie had decided to do different things that day. Eddie had chosen to go on a catamaran and snorkeling trip in the morning, while Lynn had booked tennis lessons. They took a taxi to the Tropical Beach Hotel and Spa, where they were welcomed with fruit punch and given a short talk about the area by one of the hotel guides. The catamaran was scheduled to depart from the hotel's private beach at 10:30 a.m., and Eddie put on his life jacket and joined several other passengers and hotel guests for the 2-hour trip. He was given a mask, snorkel and fins, and he waved to Lynn as he walked down to where the boat was tied up. He was carrying his deck shoes and had a towel in his hand as he made his way, barefoot, across the fine, smooth sand. As he waited his turn to get on board, he looked down at his feet in the warm, green water and thought again about the nightmare and about Dominic. He wondered where Dominic was today. Was he on a trip? Was he even still on board? In the taxi on the way to the hotel, Eddie had worried that Dominic would be on the same excursion. But how likely was it that he would meet him? He started feeling angry again that Dominic was on the ship and that he still existed at all. In spite of this, Eddie was able to relax during the boat trip. After an hour of sailing around the bay and past some spectacular beaches and coves, the catamaran dropped anchor and the small group went snorkeling near an old shipwreck. They watched and fed some stingrays, and Eddie enjoyed the calming effect of being below the surface and in a very different world underwater. He was a good swimmer and very fit. He had swum for his school and his university, and he had won medals for long-distance swimming. Even now, at home, he tried to get to the local pool at least twice a week. When he got back to the beach hotel, he was feeling tired but refreshed. He'd caught the sun too, and his forehead and nose were burnt. He found Lynn sitting on a sun lounger by a small pool with fountains. She was reading and sipping another fruit punch. "Hello, you. I thought I'd find you here," he said. "Oh, hi. How was it?" "Brilliant." "You've caught the sun." "I know. I forgot to take some decent sunblock. I borrowed some off the guys on the boat, but I think it was too late." "Here," she said, reaching for some cream in her bag. "Use some of this." She passed him a tube of cream, and Eddie squeezed some into his hand and rubbed it on his face. "How was the tennis?" he asked. "It was cancelled. The guy never turned up, and it was too late to get another trainer." "Really? That's not good. We've already paid for it." "I know," said Lynn, "but they're giving us lunch for free instead, so I don't mind really. I'm booked for tennis again in St. Lucia in a few days, so that's okay. He mocked her. Listen to you. I'm booked for tennis again in St. Lucia in a few days, she says, sipping her cocktail. Then he said, This is the life, eh? It certainly is. Oh, look, here's Jen. Who's Jen? Asked Eddie, looking around. He thought she looked familiar. She was booked for the tennis as well, so we came here for a drink instead and we started chatting. You'll never guess who she is. I know her, don't I? Asked Eddie. Yes and no. The same thing happened to me when I first saw her. She's from the ship. She must be, he said. Jen was almost at the pool where they were sitting. Yes, not only that, she's the singer in the band. Oh, yes, said Eddie, turning to meet her. She had on wide sunglasses and a baseball cap. She wore a colourful sarong with palm tree patterns, and her t-shirt was orange with a black saxophone logo. She was carrying a drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Hi, Lynn. Is this your man, then? Asked Jen. Yes, this is Eddie. Eddie, this is Jen. Nice to meet you, Jen, Eddie said, shaking her hand. Likewise, she said. How was the boat trip? Great, thanks. They took us around some fabulous beaches. Then we stopped and swam off the reef near an old shipwreck. Cool, said Jen. Some stingrays came by and we were given some food for them. Oh, I'd love to do that, but I'd be terrified, said Jen. They're not that dangerous, actually, although they can give you a nasty bite. Ugh, said Lynn. Or a sting with their tail, added Jen. Yeah, well, that's true. It's rare, though, said Eddie. That usually happens if you stand on one while they're buried in the sand in shallow water. Aren't you afraid of sharks? Asked Jen, lifting up her sunglasses. I try not to stand on sharks, said Eddie, smiling. You know what I mean. There weren't any in the area we were in, said Eddie, sitting down on a sun lounger next to his wife. How do you know? Asked Lynn. Well, you don't. You have to hope that there aren't any. You must be mad, said Jen. It's worth it. The fish you can see near the reef are so beautiful. Well, Jen and I have been doing as little as possible, haven't we, Jen? Absolutely, said Jen, sitting back on her lounger and sipping her drink. So no tennis then? Asked Eddie. No, said Jen. But we get a free lunch, she added. So I heard, said Eddie. What are you doing later? Well, my partner will be here soon and we're booked to go on the island safari. Oh, I saw that in the brochure, said Lynn. Is that the trip where you get a private jeep and go around the island and see the wildlife reserve? Yes, that's it. I love all the animal trips. I can't wait. Dominic isn't keen at all, but he says he doesn't mind as long as he gets his golf. Typical. It's like he's married to the stupid game. I find it so dull. He loves it, though. Do you play golf?